This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And two things before we start the show today. First off, you may be like, Ricky, you sound like Ricky, but you sound a little off. For some reason, my voice tried to escape from me yesterday, Brandon. I woke up
Did you get it back, though?
Tuesday.
You obviously got it back.
I feel like I'm almost getting it back. It doesn't feel like the full range of what my voice can do, but I may crack, I may squeal, and I may have to mute my microphone a little bit during this podcast as my voice is trying to escape, and I am desperately trying to grasp onto it because I'm like, well, voice, you can't be leaving. We got a big board today. I've got Too Old to Game tomorrow. I've got an NBA prediction podcast for the playoffs tomorrow. And I've got a mock draft on Saturday. I've got tons and tons of things to record. You cannot be trying to escape from me. So I apologize for my voice. And if I sound a little Kermit the Froggy or Patrick Mahomesy during this episode of the Primetime Podcast. Number two, and some of you may be like, guys, why are you not telling this to me until now? Brandon, I told you that we would make this brief. I don't know how brief this is going to be, but I want to thank you. And the reason I want to thank you is for you guys at home or in your car. This is going to be, Brandon, your last episode on the Primetime Podcast. This is what I want to do. I want to, before I kind of give a little bit of stats, because I got a little bit of that and a little bit of trivia, I want you to basically have the floor, talk a little bit at the beginning of the podcast, because this podcast would not be what it is today without you, because it was you and I that started it way many years ago when we talked about DeAndre Francois and his no, not DeAndre Francois. It was Everett Golson.
It was Everett Golson.
Transfer.
Yeah, so it's been a while. It's been fun doing this for sure. I've really enjoyed it. Obviously, we both love college sports and college basketball and college football, and being able to follow both of those, and it's been really fun. You, the fans, you guys have been great. Even the ones that have staunchly disagreed with myself and with Ricky, it's really been a lot of fun. We wouldn't be as successful as we are without your support and without everything that you guys do. So it's been really a fun, great ride, but having to step away to take some time and, look at some other things that are a little bit more, a little higher on the priority list of things that need to be done. But really, Ricky, it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it with you. I enjoy you putting up with me. And I know that there's probably some people out there that are saying, yes, the stupid one is finally gone. But that's okay. I really have enjoyed doing this. I think it's a great concept. I think it's been a great show. I think it's been a great ride, and I really hope that this college sports, and I don't think it will be going away. I think it will remain in some capacity somehow.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not going away, so you guys don't have to worry about, oh my God, Brandon's leaving. Where's the Primetime Podcast going to go? We're still going to be here. It's still going to move on. Brandon is also welcome back to guest appear on the PTP whenever you want. But just two little snippets of trivia. I wanted to deep dive more into this, but I didn't have time to really give it the dedication that it deserves, so I'm not going to bullshit any fake stats. But just two off the top is, do you want to take a guess at how many videos we have for the Primetime Podcast since you and I started? Let me make sure my tablet is muted. Ever since we started, our first video on YouTube went up May 17th of 2015.
I'm really bad at math. I think I've noted that a number of times here. I'm going to go with 200.
Way more than that. We have had 668 videos for the Primetime Podcast in our lifetime, because we average 3 But then there were those summers where you and I would do every single Power 5 team.
That's true.
Which would be like 7 or 8 a week.
Yep.
So, and sometimes they would have to one would be finishing as the other starts, so they would overlap and double with each other. But the very first, and I've said this before, the very first video we did, May 17th, 2015, when you and I coming out of, that was when you were still in, no, this was right after you graduated, right?
Yep.
And this was when I was just finishing my master's. We were doing the onside kick for Mark and I, and you were like, hey, let's do a college podcast. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I never would have, if you would have asked me back then, if this is what it would turn into and this is how much fun we would have, I would have called you crazy. Brandon and I have fun, but I never thought that it would turn into what this has and the journey of everyone that's followed us and everything. And for me, I wanted to just start off the podcast thanking you for everything that you've done. This show would not be what it is without your help, big guy.
Well, thanks a lot, Ricky. I appreciate it, and I've really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed, again, being able to do it with you. And, again, the fans, they've been great. We love your feedback, and we will continue to love it on every podcast. But it's really been a lot of fun, and excited to do this final one with you, and continue to of course do what's your fantasy that will be remaining. But this has been a great one.
And don't let me forget that Brandon will still be on What's Your Fantasy. It's just the primetime podcast that Brandon is stepping away from. But let's get into business per usual. Before I get in what we're going to do today, you should already know it's NFL Big Board Week, our last one for 2019. Make sure to check out patreon.com/most valuable podcast. Every single dollar we raise, the rest of 2019 is going towards a new studio. We are in a glass box because there's a window behind me, of emotion. It is small. We need more space. We get to that new space from the help of you guys supporting us at patreon.com from our bronze, silver, and gold memberships. So go check those out down below in the description. But Brandon, it is NFL Big Board Week. We split it up into 3 segments on YouTube. You get the whole thing on podcast services around the world. We start with 25 through 16. Then we go to 15 through 6. We finish things off with 1 through 5. And I will, for the last time, kick it off to you for a big board. Let us know your 16 through 25, starting with the big old 2-5.
Well, Ricky, thank you very much. Starting at 25 for me, it is Nasir Adderley, the safety from Delaware. At 24, Andre Dillard, the offensive tackle from Washington State. At 23, DeAndre Baker, the cornerback from Georgia. At 22, the wide receiver from Ole Miss, A.J. Brown. At 21, Josh Jacobs, the running back from Roll Tide, Alabama. At 20, Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle from Houston. At 19, Byron Murphy, the cornerback from Washington. At 18, Marquise Hollywood Brown, the wide receiver from Oklahoma. I knew if I didn't say Hollywood, Ricky wouldn't let me go. He wouldn't let me off the hook. At 17, Noah Fant, tight end from Iowa. And at 16, the other Ole Miss wide receiver, DK Metcalf.
You got to put that respect on that name. You got to, for me, I won't do and I know you won't get this reference, but the MVPers out there will. I'm not going to Shane McMahon you. Where on SmackDown, he took the announcer and kind of led him by the tie until he did his introduction correctly because he wasn't happy with it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to lead you by the tie, making sure you put that respect on that Hollywood Brown. But I feel like it deserves more of that Gus Johnson flair to it. Because ever since I heard Gus Johnson say it, I'm like, I got to say it like that every single time. But starting off with my 25 through 16, at number 25, a safety, much like Brandon, but a different one in Jonathan Abram, the safety out of Mississippi State. Then at 24, DeAndre Baker, the cornerback from the Georgia Bulldogs. Number 23, offensive tackle, Andre Dillard out of Washington State. Number 22, Josh Jacobs, the running back from Alabama Roll Tide. 21, Byron Murphy, the cornerback from the Washington Huskies. At number 20, Noah Fant, tight end from Iowa. 19, Marquise Hollywood Brown, the wide receiver from the Oklahoma Sooners. Then at 18, Devin Bush, inside linebacker from the Michigan Wolverines. 17, Jonah Williams, a little bit of a faller for me, offensive tackle from Alabama Roll Tide. And then at 16, Brian Burns, not to be mistaken with Bernie Burns, the edge rusher from the Florida State Seminoles. And the first thing I want to talk about in this kind of area, Brandon, are the wide receivers, because you've got a few of them. You've got 3 of them. I've got 1 of them in this region. The thing I want to ask you first is, let's start with DK Metcalf, because he is the number 1 rated wide receiver if we are doing a positional chart for most people. What's your thought with DK Metcalf? Why did you put him in this range? And do you see him as a possible top 10 pick like some mock drafts out there do?
Yeah, I think I do see him as a possible top 10 pick, because I think as we've noted before, he is the wide receiver that probably is the best overall athlete, just freak athlete in athleticism, and just, I think, so well built as well, just so in shape and can go get the football. That's for sure. He's got so many great physical tools to be able to work the field so well, to go up and get the football. He has a lot of things working in his favor. He also has good speed. I look at him as being probably the top wide receiver in the draft. But then it all depends too on what exactly you're looking for. I mean, I think he has it all. I think that when you look at Marquise Hollywood Brown, he's probably going to be the guy who, if you're looking for an absolute just dead speedster who can just boom right down the field, you throw it up, he'll go get it, he'll be your guy. But if you want a guy who's going to be able to kind of work the field, be more of the, I guess, AJ Green, Andre Johnson type almost, I think that you're looking for more of the DK Metcalf there, and that's what I think more teams would go to, as opposed to the Marquise Hollywood Brown. But again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Brown. I'm just saying that DK Metcalf probably he's a more overall well-rounded wide receiver.
Well, and the thing that DK Metcalf has going for him is obviously the size. Where you look at him compared to Marquise Hollywood Brown, DK Metcalf 6'3", 228 pounds according to NFL.com, where Marquise Hollywood Brown is 5'9", 166. So obviously one's bigger than the other. The thing with DK Metcalf is, and I have him similarly to you, where I don't have him in my top 10. I have him in that range that we're going to get to in the next segment, but he's not a top 10 guy for me. But the thing I look at with DK Metcalf for sure is, does the team in the top 10, for me, between 6 and 10, you've got the Jaguars, who could use a wide receiver. They could use offensive tackle, but they could also use weapons for Nick Foles to throw to. You've got the Lions, who Golden Tate, you trade him away, you could draft somebody for Matthew Stafford to throw the ball to. And then even like the Bills and the Broncos, those are all teams. What? I just listed off 4 teams that could go ahead and get themselves a wide receiver. You can even throw the Giants in there at 6 after trading OBJ. I know they just today, as we're recording the podcast, gave Sterling Shepard a 4-year, $41 million extension to keep him with the Giants. But I would say the entire bottom half of the top 10 could go get DK Metcalf. The thing that I question about him, and I'll ask you this, if you're a coach, do you feel like you could coach him up and change this, is he's got a bit of the dropsies. His drop rate is a little high, and when he does go on seams and fly routes, it's not as smooth. He doesn't sell it. And when he comes back, yes, it's nice to have that big frame, but on comebacks, he's got to learn to box out defenders better. As a coach, if let's say you're in the top 10, you can say Giants, Jaguars, Lions, Bills, or Broncos, would you feel at that value, could you coach him up in those areas to make him worth a top 10 pick?
Yeah, I definitely think you could. I mean, you take a look at Amari Cooper from last year. When he was with Oakland, his couple of games that he was with Oakland last season, he became this player that I don't think people recognize because he wasn't the guy he wasn't that number one wide receiver that Oakland had. He wasn't that guy that people, from a fantasy perspective, was getting the catches, was getting the yards. And just probably from a coaching perspective from Oakland, they're like, he's dropping more balls, more passes. He's not looking like himself. Now he gets traded and goes over to the Dallas Cowboys, and boom, all of a sudden he's a stud for them. Yeah. So I think part of it is is certainly coaching. Part of it is it was a change of scenery for him. But yes, that is something that you can coach up. Again, you do have to. It's also something that as a player you just have to focus on. I mean, specifically in practice, you're focusing on. Hold on to the football. All that type of stuff. And maybe that's an area that you just put more emphasis on, but certainly something that you can teach. And it's not like, okay, if you look at it coming out of college, well, you have a case of the dropsies. That's fixable. There's other things. Oh, you're not tall enough. That's not fixable. Yeah. Sometimes
Marquise
even
Brown might have that problem. DK Metcalf does not.
Marquise Brown, now moving to him, I think you've mentioned it, I think, before too, but he is like compared to AJ Brown, compared to DK Metcalf, Marquise Hollywood Brown is fragile. I mean, he's fragile. He will not do well on a hit across the middle. That will put him down for a while.
No, he's a fly route guy. He's the guy, put him on the outside and let him go.
And I'm just saying, it's because he's been compared to Deshaun Jackson. The times that Deshaun Jackson has gotten hurt is when he's gone on a route across the middle or, a crossing pattern there. But I think that there really is a lot of good with Marquise Brown, even if they look at him and they go, oh, he's absolutely undersized. He needs to add more weight, more muscle. This is a guy that on a screenplay can turn it into a touchdown. This is a guy that's a home run hitter. And that's where a team like, the Buffalo Bills could certainly use that. Or the Denver Broncos could certainly use that. They need that home run hitter. And I know the Denver Broncos are in a better position because they have Emmanuel Sanders. He's like their home run hitter. And then, of course, their running back, Phillip Lindsay. But for the Buffalo Bills, they don't have any home run hitters for the most part. They could use that speed, that quickness, that ability to get down the field and beat some receivers, beat some corners, rather. But another thing for Brown is he's not going to win a whole lot of jump balls. 50-50 balls, he's probably not going to win that. He just doesn't have the size and he doesn't have the strength to be able to do it. So those are some things that could be drawbacks, but I think that he's good enough. He has enough tools in terms of his athleticism overall and his speed to be able to make himself a very, I think, worthy pick.
And the thing that I'm thinking about, too, is I'm looking at the kind of full order, all 7 rounds for teams. Buffalo's obviously, like, if they're going to go wide receiver in the first round, it's DK Metcalf in the top 10 or nobody. But the thing that I think about, and call me crazy here, because with Marquise Brown, the thing that, for everything he does well with his speed, to me there's a little bit of weaknesses in the sense of, and this also goes into the type of player he is, where like you see on draft profiles, he's not a 50-50 ball winner. He's not going to be that guy like maybe a DK Metcalf could be, where throw it up, he ain't jumping up to go get it. He's not going to be that. He's also a little undersized. So to me, what that says is he's going to have to hit the weight room when he gets drafted. Hit that weight room, kind of bulk up a little bit so he doesn't have that issue that you were talking about of being undersized for if he has to go under the middle. And then, like, I look here, one of the big ones that kind of screams out to me is he's got a strength of can turn short passes into touchdowns, which obviously that means, like, he can turn a slant into a touchdown if in the open field. But a negative of his is he's not going to really turn it, or he doesn't have the ball skills to compete on an underthrown ball. So with me, it's telling me it's got to be a perfectly thrown ball. It's got to get them in space, or it's got to be one where it's just perfectly thrown in a fly route. And the question I want to ask you, keeping with Buffalo, because you brought them up, let's say the Packers don't go with them. Well, let's say the Bills pass on DJ Metcalf. Let's say the Packers then say, okay, we're going to go with DK. So DK is off the board. Marquise Hollywood Brown would then be the next top receiver. Let's say Washington passes on him. Let's say New York passes on him. Let's say Pittsburgh passes on him. If the Seahawks come up at number 21, if you are the Buffalo Bills, do you pick up the phone to call the Seahawks to try to trade back into the first round? Because the Seahawks are a team, I believe they only have 5 picks. They could want to move back and accumulate some picks this draft. If you're Buffalo, do you pick up the phone to try to work a trade out with the Seahawks to get back into the first round to take Marquise Hollywood Brown at 21? Because the Ravens right after could be another team that then drafts him.
See, this is also the thing that I'm not certain of. You know, just taking a look at the Buffalo Bills wide receivers, they've got John Brown, kind of a speedster. They've got Cole Beasley, guy over the middle. They've got Zay Jones, who, if he could ever stay healthy, could maybe end up being a number 1 wide receiver. They almost need somebody who's not like a Marquise Hollywood Brown. Well, I think that he could do well there because, you know, Josh Allen probably could get the ball down the field to him.
So you're saying it might benefit them to take DK in the top 10?
I think that they would be a team that is looking for that DK. You know, there's just a number of already like small guys on the team. Zay Jones is I think the biggest wide receiver on that Bills wide receiver core, because then you've got Cole Beasley, who's a small guy, nothing to him. Then you've got John Brown, small guy, nothing to him. Do you want a third small guy, nothing to you, or do you want to add another one to maybe put alongside a Zay Jones to hopefully go up and be able to get some of those jump balls and be a little bit more aggressive going for the football, as opposed to, well, I'll catch the deep ball for you. You know, that's where I think that you would, you know, kind of be on that line of what kind of wide receiver do we want? And Buffalo right now, I think they already have a number of little guys. They need another big guy.
So would you say, by big guy, are you saying maybe let's target a guy 6 foot and above? Yeah. Okay. Because the reason why
6'2", 6'3", a little bit more meat on their bones.
Then let me throw this out at you as I open up some more draft profiles. Because the reason why on our spreadsheet I put wide receivers is, to me, it's like DK, Hollywood Brown are there, and then maybe Paris Campbell or an A.J. Brown.
I mean, I'd
snatched up at the end.
I'd go with I mean, if you're looking at, if you're Buffalo and you're saying, you know, bring back in your scenario again with Seattle, I would maybe jump in if A.J. Brown is still there.
Would you take
try and go get him?
Brown? You would then take A.J. Brown over a Hollywood Brown.
For Buffalo, yes, because I don't need another Hollywood Brown. Yeah, I need a guy that's more A.J. Brown. That's where I'm at. But now another team, you know, someone like
the Redskins.
The Redskins, they're like, just give me a wide receiver. We'll take wide receiver with skills.
Not Kirk Cousins. Give me somebody for Case Keenum. I saw
or whoever that quarterback's going to be.
Yeah, it could. Apparently, they're not in the running for Josh Rosen. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge for audio listeners.
Yeah.
But like, I also look at it too, and like, I look at the wide receiver position, and there are so many guys in this draft to where I kind of look at it and I go, could you just go, like, if you pass on DK Metcalf, could you then maybe go for a guy like N'Keal Harry later in the draft, a Riley Ridley later in the draft, a Miles Boykin, who had a really good combine? Could you go with these guys later? And I know that not all these guys are the like 6 foot guy that you were targeting for Buffalo, but like if you're a team like for Miles Boykin, let's say, Like, if you're saying you need a big, holy crap, you know what I just noticed? Miles Boykin, right here, a Chicago kid. He's right from the area, Tinley Park, not too far from
not far at all.
Chicago. But I saw it on the draft profile. It kind of caught me off guard. But, like, he's a guy that he's going to be nowhere near the first round. But he's a 6'4" receiver. If you're Buffalo, do you maybe do that and go, hey, you know what? We don't have to take one in the first round. We'll wait and target Miles Boykin later in the draft.
And maybe you do something like that. I have a question for you.
Hit me.
DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Hollywood Brown, these guys we've talked about. Who's the guy that's not being talked about right now that you think will end up being that's the sleeper that ends up being the guy once he's drafted? I mean, is it a N'Keal Harry? Is it a Deebo Samuel? Is it any of these guys that are out here that could be taken, that have skill, that were really good in college, that are just kind of waiting in the weeds? No one's talking about them, and they're happy that no one's talking about them because they're going to be able to show them with their play come fall.
So I'm kind of a little biased here because I've got some wide receivers that I'm rooting for. Like, you know how you feel about David Montgomery out of Iowa State, where when he had a bad combine, you felt bad because he's your guy? That's N'Keal Harry for me. N'Keal Harry, once he started getting some bad grades, I was like, oh no, I really like you, N'Keal. Why are you getting bad grades? But the guy that I look at, and maybe people are saying, I don't know if this is an answer to your question or if this is kind of being a cop-out, I think Paris Campbell's that guy. Because I think Paris Campbell, in the right situation, could be a guy that really flourishes. And the one thing I kind of think about is there's two teams that I think he can be good with. The first one is Oakland. And the reason why I say that, AB is going to be getting a lot of coverage. AB is going to be getting a lot of double teams. Worked well for Juju. Juju got open quite a bit. Paris Campbell, if he's able to use that speed, could be a real Gruden grind. It depends. Is he a Gruden grinder, though? The other team I look at is the Green Bay Packers. Let's say they don't go a wide receiver at 12. Let's say they go with TJ Hawkinson, who for some reason Mel Kiper's all over, Todd McShay's all over. I don't see the top 10 value there. Like, I get he's good. I just don't know where he came from out of nowhere. But that later pick, the one they have from the Saints, what if the Packers go Paris Campbell? I could see Paris Campbell being kind of like and I'm even going to look up
the Packers, too, need another wide receiver.
They do.
Bad.
And in my mock draft right now, kind of early kind of look at it, I have them leaning towards wide receiver at that number 12 pick. Like, if DK Metcalf is there, I think the Packers are all over that at number 12. But the thing I look at is, you know what, Jordy Nelson was a little bit taller. But the thing I kind of look at, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, when it comes to Paris Campbell, I almost see it, although he's 6 foot 205, Jordy Nelson was 6'3", 217. I almost feel like Paris Campbell could be a quicker Jordy Nelson out there for the Packers, where Aaron Rodgers he's not gonna be that deep threat, but he can be that guy over the middle that Aaron Rodgers hits and turns things into big plays with his legs rather than with Aaron Rodgers' arm.
Well, Ricky, perfect answer. Thanks for giving it to me.
But it depends. Does Aaron Rodgers think that Paris Campbell knows his stuff on football? Because apparently if Aaron Rodgers thinks you don't know football, that he's smarter than you, then he's going to dismiss you, according to reports.
I'll be honest with you. I don't really care much about the Packers at all.
Here's the question I want to ask you, kind of moving on into the other guy I wanted to talk about in this range, because he's kind of an enigma to me. Ed Oliver. We've talked about him before. I have him a little bit lower. I'm going to have him in the 6 to 15 range, but there are people saying that he is a for sure lock top 10 pick. As we get closer and closer to the draft, what are your thoughts about Oliver? Because you had him down at number 20.
So I think that Ed Oliver is a really good talent. I don't know if he's a top 10 talent though. He's a really great athlete. He's got great agility. He's quick. He's got great feet. That's for sure. I really do wonder though, in his size, and I know that I've probably, tried to defend it before and understand it. Not everybody, we've seen it in other positions be okay. But at this position, if you are undersized and you're coming in, and college, of course, is different. We know it for, so many positions. It's different, if not every position. Kicking, it's probably about the same. You still got to get it between the goalposts. No one told Cody Parkey. But I think that you still need to go up against the best and be, kind of somewhat evenly matched against them. And does Ed Oliver have that, or is he already coming at it, with a disadvantage because of his size? Now, no one's going to, I think, question his ability. I don't think they're going to question his athleticism. I think they're going to question, can he do this, and is he going to be elite at this level? Because he's most likely going to be undersized compared to the rest of the guys that he's going against. And that's why I still think that he's a good talent. I just don't know if he's a top 10, even top 15 draft pick come the end of April.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing for me where I know, like, when I've talked to Mark on the Onside Kick about it, we've had the discussion of, well, what position is he going to play? Mark would always say that. What position is he going to play? Is he going to be a linebacker, or is he going to be a defensive tackle? And one of the things that just doesn't sit right in my mind, and of course this isn't like a red flag, write him off, but it's just something of he's got to have the right coach to teach him some of these skills. But when it says, so he's 6'2", 287, right? And then you scroll down to the weakness on his scouting report, and it says scouts say he played under 280 pounds. Where that to me is like, so you're a 280 plus guy playing like you're not 200. Like, you're not using all of the strength that your body gives you with all that weight that you have. And one of the other things that I think of is, like, many people compare him to Aaron Donald, where if he's going to be the next Aaron Donald, sure, take him in the top 10. Like, wouldn't we all love to have an Aaron Donald? But the thing I think about is the pass rush skills, or just the rushing skills that he didn't develop in college. Can your coaching staff bring that out of him? And of course, you're going to have confidence. When I ask these questions of, can your coaching staff do that? Of course, if you have confidence in yourself, you're going to say, yes, I can. But also, you got to look at it. You're working with somebody. Is he going to be able to work with you to where you can get his full potential out of your coaching staff? And that's what I think is the biggest question with Ed Oliver, and why he's kind of like an enigma to me.
So, Ricky, I want to just bring this up. So the average guard, tackle, and center in the NFL in 2015, bless you.
Thank you.
The average was 6'5", 312. And again, it's saying he's 6'2", 287. I mean, that's tough.
Undersized for the tackle position.
You're small. You're a small guy, and when you're going up against guys who are bigger than that, I mean, I know you got quick feet and you've got great footwork, but is that going to be enough to be able to go against these guys, or are you going to be getting worn down early in games, and then middle of games, late in games, they're getting right past you?
Well, and that's the thing. I'll bring up Aaron Donald again, where that comparison is nice because I think people just see Aaron Donald being so productive, and he's 6'1", 280. So he's an inch tall, or an inch shorter than Ed Oliver, and he's about 7 pounds lighter than Ed Oliver. But he's got a kind of plethora of moves in his kind of back pocket that he can pull out and use. Ed Oliver doesn't have those yet. Will he have those? Possibly. I just don't know. For me, I don't know with Ed Oliver if that is a possibility. If he's not able to develop those pass rush moves, then he's not going to be an Aaron Donald type player, and he will be that player that you just mentioned that we question, are you going to be able to go one-on-one with guards on the inside of the line. If he can develop those moves, then sure, he's an Aaron Donald type player and will be fine in the NFL.
And I was just going to say that the average NFL linebacker, about 6'2", 245.
Yeah, so I mean, a little bit smaller.
So if he's not playing defensive tackle and he's going to be an inside linebacker, then we're looking at, yes, a different position and a kind of overall a different way to look at how successful and productive Ed Oliver could be.
On that fancy website of yours, do they kind of show the average size for either a defensive end or an outside linebacker?
Well, you just hold your horses.
Okay. Because that's the thing, like with Aaron Donald, it says like defensive tackle, defensive end. What if he bounces out? Could he bounce out to defensive end based on his size? But yet again, if he doesn't have those rush moves, how successful is he going to be? I know I hit you with a curveball here. Didn't mean to hit you with that one.
No. Defensive end, about 269 pounds.
Okay, so a little lighter than him.
Doesn't give a height, though. Struggling for a height.
So you said 269. That's about, what, 20 pounds less than what he is. So basically, if he wants to be an edge rusher or even a linebacker, he's going to have to shave down some pounds. And if he wants to be a defensive tackle, he's going to have to learn those rush moves that we're talking about for the next level. I'm going to throw one thing at you. Any guy that you feel like in 16 to 25, where you're like, you know what? I don't want to go hugely into him, but I want to give this guy some love.
Just very quickly, Noah Fant. I think that this T.J. Hawkinson, is not that he's garbage, but I think the fact that T.J. Hawkinson's being so widely put out in front of Noah Fant, one, that he's being put in front of Noah Fant, and two, that he's being so much more talked about.
Well, it's production over athleticism.
It doesn't make sense to me. I think Noah Fant has been the more productive tight end, personally. And I think he's more athletic. We'll certainly see when he gets into the NFL. Noah Fant, I really think, is a Travis Kelce-esque type of tight end. And if that comes to fruition, whoever gets him is going to be very happy, and that could be the Detroit Lions, because they need a tight end like, I need $1 million badly.
They're one that's a question for me as I'm kind of putting together one of my last mocks is what do I do with them, defense or tight end or wide receiver in the top 10. But that is just one team that I'm like, what do I do with? There are so many of them in this draft, but this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below about the wide receivers and Ed Oliver and anyone ranked in our 16 through 25. Also, let us know what your big board is. What would be your 16 through 25? What would be your full big board? Let us know down below in the comment section.